Hey everyone, welcome back to Ontario Gardening. Today we are going to do strawberry preserves. This is a little bit different than jam. This is the strawberries that you're going to use for things like in strawberry pie filling or for strawberry sundaes on top of cheesecakes, that type of thing. So more of that strawberry sauce as opposed to a jam. There's no pectin in here, Sure-Jell, anything like that. It's just strawberries and sugar. So this recipe calls for 6 pounds of strawberries, which is about 6 quarts, and that equals about 20 cups of whole strawberries. This is going to make you two 1 liter mason jars. I am going to put them into the 500 milliliter mason jars. This is better for our family to crack open a jar and use it as a smaller portion as opposed to opening a big jar and then throwing it in the fridge and having it sit there. So the first step that you're going to do is you are going to hull your strawberries and wash them up, and then we're going to move them into a container 1 cup at a time. And for every cup of strawberries, we're going to sprinkle half of a cup of sugar on top. After we're done that, we're going to let it sit for 5 hours. So here I've got my 1 cup of strawberries, and I'm going to add them to a bowl. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to take half a cup of sugar, and I'm going to sprinkle that on top. Okay, so now I'm doing it again. I'm going to do another cup of strawberries, and then I come in and do another half cup of sugar on top. And we're going to keep doing that, and we're going to keep layering that, and then I'll do all of these strawberries and we're going to mix them all together real good. So let's just do that off camera, and then I can show you the final product before we put it in the fridge for 5 hours. So basically we have all of our berries coated in the sugar. We've mixed it well. Now we're going to stick it in the fridge for 5 hours, and it's going to start, as you can see, like on this strawberry here, the sugar breaks down, and that's what's going to become our syrup. So let's stick that in the fridge, and we'll be back in 5 hours. So these have been sitting in the fridge for about 5 hours now. As you can see, they're starting to get like a liquid at the bottom. So the recipe calls for keeping these whole and just throwing them in the pot. But I'm going to be putting these on things like for strawberry sauce, like ice cream and cheesecake, and on pancakes and waffles and stuff. So I don't necessarily want these huge whole berries to do that. You can do that if that's the way you're preferring it, but I'm actually going to sit and just quickly slice these all in half, and this way I have half berries as opposed to these huge full berries. So we're going to do that real quick, and then when we're done, as we're cutting them, we're going to transfer them into either a Dutch oven or a stock pot on the stove there. So we're going to do that. I'm going to do that off camera, and then we'll be back. Okay, now we have the strawberries inside of our pot. And we are going to just keep stirring this around until the sugar begins to melt at the bottom and becomes a syrup. And we're just going to keep mixing this over the heat and just keep letting it simmer and simmer and simmer until all that sugar breaks down. And I'll show you what that looks like once we get there. So just keep stirring, mixing it around, making sure all of those strawberries are getting coated with the sugar mixture, and just keep heating until that's broken down. So this has been on for about 2 minutes, and as you can see, the sugar is becoming more of a watery consistency, like a syrup consistency, as opposed to sticky. So we're going to keep simmering this down and keep going for a couple more minutes and see where we're at. So we've had this on for a couple more minutes here, and you can see how the liquid is actually starting to rise because that sugar has been melting down, and it's almost aligned with the height of the strawberries. So almost everything is engulfed in syrup. Make sure you're just continuing to stir that so that the sugars don't burn. And we're going to keep doing this for just a couple more minutes until we're really making sure that that is a nice syrup and that we have lots of it to cover these strawberries as we pack them into the jars. Now that the sugars have melted down and simmered down quite a bit, I'm going to get this up to a boil and then really let that sugar boil for a second, for about a minute, and then we'll be ready to put it into our jars. Okay, we've been boiling for about a minute, so at this point we are going to turn off the heat to the stove and we are going to ladle these mixtures into whatever jar you're using. So I'm going to go ahead here, and we're leaving about 1/2 inch of headspace. And you want to make sure you're getting some of the mixture as well as some of the strawberries in there. And we're almost at 1/2 inch, so I'm just going to do a little bit more. Okay. As you can see, we're done here. Now, if you wanted to, at this point, we could put a little bit more of the hot liquid on top just to make sure all of the strawberries are submerged in that liquid. Just gonna add a little bit more here. Okay, now we want to take either a knife or a chopstick, whatever you have handy, to go in and remove all the air bubbles. So you're just gonna go in and you're gonna move the mixture around a little bit inside of the jar. I'm using a chopstick and removing those air bubbles and kind of pressing some of the mixture down there. So now we've got the mixture all done and into our jar. We're going to use a wet cloth or a wet napkin, and we are going to wipe the rim at the top here, make sure there's no debris, and so that canning lid can stick. And then we're gonna go in and get our warm canning lids, adding it to the top, and then adding our rings finger tight. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish my jars and do that, and then we will get them into the water bath to do a water bath canning. Okay, so now I'm going to put all of my packed jars into our water bath canner. Now I ended up getting 6 500 milliliters or pint jars out of this, meaning you probably get 3 quart jars out of this. I'm gonna put that at the beginning of the video in text just so there isn't any confusion, but I just wanted to let you know that you did get more. So we're gonna put these into our water bath canner. And the processing time is going to be dependent on how big your jars are. So these 500 milliliter or pint jars are going to process for 15 minutes. And if you're using the bigger jars, they only process for 10 minutes. Okay, and here we are here. We've got our strawberry preserves in syrup. So I'm assuming once this gets down to cooler temperatures, the syrup will thicken up just a little bit. And you just want to go and you want to make sure that none of these are popping up. They're all sealed. Everything sounds good. There we are. Love it. We will talk to you soon for our next canning tutorial and other garden videos. Bye.